Welcome back. Well, I want to spend a few minutes and talk with you about the different pages on our club. We are logged in. You can see Welcome Naomi Sweetman up there at the top of the website. And you'll notice that once you're logged in, under the site pages down here on the left-hand side, you actually have 3 more site pages that you have access to. And that really goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that some of the top tabs aren't accessible without a login. These top tabs, you'll notice, are pretty much the same as the other tabs. We'll go through each of these relatively quickly. So this is about our e-club. This really talks about our club, the history of our club. The links on the left-hand side, the sub-pages, have an e-club charter. And this is a charter that is just our charter we got from Rotary International. This is a list of the charter members that were members at the time we chartered the club. The two most important documents in this section are the Constitution and bylaws. The club constitution is how we manage our club. It talks about attendance, it talks about membership, and it's a very important document for the club. There's a disagreement, it talks about an appeal process to the board. So it's important that all members are familiar with the Constitution, and this is the current Constitution in effect right now. The bylaws are also very important. They address topics such as elections, terms of office, that type of thing. And again, it's very important to read them. They're not overly long documents, but they are a must-read for each club member at some point. And then the e-club banner is empty right now. What we're looking at building, and it's in the design process, is a virtual banner that can be given to clubs that we visit or make up meetings at. The calendar section of the website is a nice little section. It's not being utilized right now much. It requires to fill it in. Usually you fill in the event module and that puts something up on the calendar. We haven't been using it, but as time marches on, we will start using it. We did cover the meetings extensively at a couple of weeks ago. I'll go over these real brief. This is a welcome to our meeting. This page tells people about our meetings. It tells people how they can receive credit for their meeting, and if they're visiting Rotarian, what they need to do to receive credit. The most important thing, it tells you how to donate money to our club. So if you're visiting Rotarian, you can donate money, or if you're a club member and you have happy bucks to give, you can give those. And then it talks about our format. When you're ready to go to the meeting, the current and active meeting, click the ready for the meeting, and it takes you right to our current meeting. On the left-hand side, you'll see an archive of old meetings that we have done, and we've labeled them so that it makes it easier for you to find the meeting that you're interested in rewatching. And then for 2015, we have our meeting list starting. We're working on an archive process. It's not as easy as one might think. The Director's Monthly is just was the early way that we were storing minutes from the board meetings. We're using a different methodology at this point. And then the Create a Meeting page, we went over extensively. It talks about how to create a meeting. It gives detailed instructions. Over on the left is a link to upload videos to YouTube, and then the form under Create a Meetings. The committees page is a login only page. You have to be logged in to access it, so it's members only, and it really talks about the committee structure of the club and the importance of that structure in keeping the club running smoothly. And then it talks about the committee chair's responsibility as well as the recommended club committees for the club. We've adopted the recommended structure from Rotary International. There is a video here that actually is developed by Club Runner and shows how to utilize the club committee module that we have purchased for committee chairs and committee members. On the left-hand side, you'll see that there are related pages. So these are pages that are related but not subpages of the club, the committees, and they're related, and there's a reason that they're related pages rather than subpages. Each of these pages have different topics within them, and they have related pages to them. So the club administration chair is me, talks about the committee and what the committee does, and then any subcommittees underneath. You'll see over on the left-hand side that there's actually an additional related page in this committee. I'm beginning to build this out. This is the eClub Bulletin Editor. Gives information about the editor and the role of the editor, what they should be doing. And then there's a 30-minute video that talks about how to create a bulletin. Finally, in the files download is the manual for club administration that is developed by Rotary International. The membership committee is structured and set up in very much the same way. The membership chair right now is George. He's our president-elect. And it talks about the importance of the committee, gives you the subcommittees, and then the manual is downloadable. And eventually there'll be more related pages and other things that sit in that page. Public Relations is chaired by Brian Shimmick. Again, talks about public relations, and then the subcommittees that fit underneath public relations. And he has a manual. He is working right now on building more pages for his committee. And then the Service Projects Committee is Gary Wells. He too is working on more pages. Talks about the structure of the committee and then subcommittees that fall underneath him. And on the left-hand side, he also has a manual for download. The final committee is the Foundation Committee. This is set up a little bit different. So the first section is a welcome section, and it talks about Sharon Durka is the chair for this committee, and this talks about Rotary International and Foundation. And it has links to Rotary International, Paul Harris Society, and then a direct link to the Rotary International to give a donation, and then an application form. She has two documents for download. One is the giving form and the other is the manual. And there are also two subpages here. The second page is the foundation work, and this is the same as the pages that were for the other committee members. This talks about the Rotary Foundation Committee and then subcommittees that go underneath that. The final section of the website is really the new member orientation. We're building this for new members. It's in the building stages right now. If you have feedback or comments, I would love to hear them. I have a couple of members testing it and taking it for a test drive to see how well it works. We can actually assign tasks to new members and require that they give us dates when they've completed it, so that's pretty cool. This is a welcome and getting started page, and really just explains the expectations of members, gives them more information about our club, and then tells them what we'll be expecting from them as a new member. The next one is an introduction to Rotary. Naturally, new members need to be introduced to Rotary, particularly if they're not former Rotarians. So this talks about Rotary, our district, and the E-Club. It has a link to Rotary International, and then it has another link to District 5010. It has a link to our homepage where people can look at the structure of our officers, and then it gives a brief description of what each of these positions do. It takes them to the About our E-Club page and requires that they read the charter members, the Constitution, bylaws, and the banner, even though the banner's empty. There are 3 videos. They're Rotary International videos. This is Rotary, Welcome to Rotary, and the History of Rotary. Once they've completed it, at the bottom there are some instructions on what they need to do next. going into their profile and editing the new member activities and providing a date for watch video introduction to Rotary. The next section of this is the avenues of service. Again, it's set up very similar to the introduction to Rotary. Talks about the 5 avenues of service, the vocational, and there's links in there to Rotary International and some documents, but there's some video. This is the gentleman that we had in a meeting a number of months ago who talked about, he's a prior Rotary International president, and he talks about vocational service as the forgotten avenue of service. His presentation was very good, and in my humble opinion, he did the best job I've ever heard of describing vocational service. Really provide good clarification. It gives links for many of the different avenues of service, and then for our youth, there's also a video here that people can watch that talk about all the Rotary youth programs. Again, instructions on what they need to do when they've completed all the work. The final one that's built right now is the 4-way test. The 4-way test talks about the guiding principles of Rotary. It talks about the object of Rotary, the 4-way test, and then a brief video on the 4-way test. Finally, instructions, just like all the others, on what to do when they've completed this task. So I haven't put any more in this top bar because they're not built yet. But on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's the pages waiting for the profile, meeting and committees, club and service projects, and finally foundation. So that's pretty much it. The final link up on this top part is the contact us. This sends an email directly to the individual that you've clicked. Of course, our club secretary is the most important person to be sending an email to. She is the one that gives us credit. So when I come back at the next section of our meeting, we'll talk about the member area. Thank you.